What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel. Mick here, and it's good to have you back. In today's video, we're going to be doing a commentary style reaction to the information that's been pushed out by Bungie and the Marathon team. They have released a video on the Season 2 changes with information like runner shells, weapons, different ways you can do your skill tree now. All sorts of great information there, so we're going to have a look at everything, and I'll kind of give my opinion on how I think this will play out in game and how it'll play out in raid. Before we do get into that though, I will keep this intro short. Feel free to skip it though, boys, if you want to get straight into it. Thanks and God bless to everybody that's been commenting and subscribing and talking about the game, keeping it alive. We really do have a great game here with Marathon, and we've had some mishaps with the Destiny side of things and the player count, but I'm hoping with Season 2 we have a fresh start, fresh chance to make this a really good game. And the community that are here on the channel and that are surrounding Marathon, we're a great community, and we are going to keep this game going as long as we can. So Season 2, like I said, fresh start. Let's see what we can make this game into. Don't forget, guys, I have started a Discord channel. The purpose of that Discord is for LFGs, help people find teammates. We haven't got too many people in there as of yet, but as the seasons go on, hopefully we get a bigger community growing. With teammates in this game, the raids are a lot more fun. They do go a little bit easier, so any way we can make that happen is good. I am uploading shorts as well alongside my main uploads, so feel free to check them out. Okay, boys, not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to look at this video. This will be a live reaction. I have got snippets of information here and there, but I haven't watched this video in full as of yet, so this will be kind of my live reaction. Let's take a look at this video and see what Marathon has got in store for us for Season 2.
When a player starts a new season, I want them to feel like we've been able to kind of recapture the magic of like week 1 of Marathon launch. Everything is new, you don't know what's valuable yet. That feeling of discovery is going to be exciting and kind of push you to new stories and new journeys along your seasonal progression.
The core thing we think about is how is that journey going to be interesting and fresh, and how is it going to provide players different choices?
I think it's going to be a really exciting time for people to sort of like chart a new course and sort of like finding their own new path.
The narrative theme of Season 2 is escalation. The UESC is tired of getting pushed around by the runners, and they're fighting back. As their opposition escalates, so too does the anomaly. One of your jobs is to find out why.
From the first moment you infill on Marsh, you're gonna feel tension.
It is oppressive, unsettling. The creepiness factor gets ratcheted up.
This been here for years.
As night falls, the anomaly intensifies and digital psychosis hallucinations start to affect you. Confusing, fragmented vocals and messages that really start to play with what the player is hearing and making them question what's in their head versus in the real world.
Upon landing in Marsh, all players will have an equipped flashlight by default.
Marsh is this interesting counterplay of, do I go to the places where there is light and kind of comfort and safety? But doing so makes you a lot more visible to people who are hiding in the dark.
When you are in those shadows, you want to have equipment that allows you to see in the dark using your cybernetic eyes.
We really leaned into LiDAR as kind of our mechanic for runners to navigate in the dark.
Once you start accumulating these tools and upgrading your loadout to be specifically tailored to fighting on Marsh, you're going to become far more powerful.
One thing we saw resonate with players from maps like Outpost was the way you could work your way through the map and earn access to treasure. That's the core principle of what we're looking to do on Marsh.
Players have kind of seen that there are maybe elevators or staircases up to something that has been closed off, and in Season 2, you're going to gain access to that space.
This is the observation deck and science lab where the UESC has been studying the anomaly. That's going to be one of the most heavily guarded areas of the map.
In there, it's going to be juicy loot.
Ultimately, the real test of mastery on Marsh is, can you get into Upper Complex and can you raid that UESC treasure room up there?
Okay guys, as you can see in the video, the first thing that they did mention is the new map variant, Dire Marsh Night. You know, some of us may love Dire Marsh, some of us may not, but we are going to be getting a new variant of that map. This is going to be low visibility, very big, you know, pitch black dark areas. It is going to be an increased UESC threat. We are going to get flashlights and stuff like that, but this is going to play a lot different to the Dire Marsh that we all know. So just going off what they spoke about in the video in kind of a list format or back to front, whatever you want to call it, the first thing they did mention was some sort of digital psychosis and the anomaly playing up. As some of you know, in Dire Marsh, the anomaly is that big thing in the middle that has the barriers around it. You know, you can go around, but you can't get through. This is going to be playing up in that story setting. You know, there is going to be some lore behind it, but in terms of the gameplay itself, apparently it's going to be affecting the player in a psychosis fashion. We are going to be getting audio bugs. Now, I don't know the scale or how heavy these are going to be, but I can't imagine these will affect your hearing and your awareness, and maybe you'll think you hear players when you don't, stuff like that. So that might be interesting, and that will just add to that overall threat that we are going to be expecting from this variant. Another thing they mentioned then was the UESC are fighting back. They are becoming more aggressive. They are going to be harder to kill. Now, I don't know if that's for Marathon as a whole or just this variant, but I would just have to assume it is Night March itself. Now, we do know from other extraction shooters in the past that when they do bring out a variant of a map, usually the enemies do become stronger, harder, and more aggressive, and when that happens, the floor loot is usually better. Now, I have no information on that. I would just have to assume, but you know, I can't imagine the floor loot being a little bit better on this map, and with the UESC being a bit more aggressive and being more of a threat, this might not be as much of a beginner map as we may think. You know, when it comes to wipe, there might be some progression needed before you can actually get in here and you'll be viable. You know, it's not like end of wipe when you have 1,000 bullets and a gold bully. With these UESC, you know, at the start of a wipe, these guys are really dangerous and really aggressive. I can only imagine that you're going to have to progress a little before you start making these night runs, but we'll have to wait and see. Another thing they did mention then was flashlights. Now, this is cool to see in an extraction shooter format. Flashlights in the likes of Tarkov or Delta Force can be used in these close encounters of PvP, you know, to blind the enemy and get that upper hand. So it will be interesting to see how this mechanic works in PvP, what the enemy's flashlight looks like when they're, you know, aiming at you, if it is blinding. But in terms of Night March and the flashlights, this is going to be just for visibility. They're releasing this so you can see where you're going, maybe detect enemies in shadowy areas. But this is going to have a negative effect as well, because if you're using these flashlights in these dark areas, your visibility is going to go up and the enemies are sure going to see you. I know I'm going to be looking for flashlights, so you best believe everybody else is going to be looking for them too. So there is going to be moments to use them, and there's definitely going to be moments to keep them turned off. Now, one specific bit of equipment that I did want to look at was this recon grenade thing that this player threw. It seems to highlight the enemy and light up the area in a red flare-like fashion. Definitely going to be used for Night March in those situations where it's very dark, indoors, in PvP situations. As you can see, it highlights the player in a thermal fashion. Now, because of Bungie, I did assume that these could be used through walls, but it does look like when he slid behind cover, he was hit. So this is going to be used to light up areas and highlight enemies. Definitely just to pull people out of shadows and make these PvP encounters in the dark a little easier. Very useful equipment here, and I'll definitely be looking forward to trying these out, especially on Night Dire March. Okay guys, so lastly in the video, as you can see, they were talking about this new map objective, that ultimate loot room that is in Upper Complex. You will have to work through different objectives across Dire March to access that. This is going to be something similar to the key cards in the red room on Outpost. You know, this is amazing to see. I love that depth they're adding to the maps, these extra puzzles you can do, these extra objectives. Always having something to do in raid is really big for extraction shooters, and Bungie are targeting this heavily and they're doing it well. So it will be fun to get in and work out how to get there, do the different objectives, and of course find out how good the loot is up there. And as we all know, in Bungie fashion, you can imagine the loot will be nerfed within a week, but we'll have to wait to see.
In Season 2, Sentinel is a new defensive shell.
They're optimized for controlling space. You have all these different tools that you're able to deploy into the world to fortify an area and keep others out. You're able to put down this defender system that shoots down grenades out of the air. Whenever you take explosive damage, that's going to be a big buff to a bunch of your resistances. And additionally, when you're surrounded by enemies, your small arms are going to have increased reload speed and ready speed. Players are getting really good at gap closing and getting right in your face. But now with Sentinel, you throw down a snare mine, and whenever anybody gets close to it, they're stopped in their tracks.
You have an ability to be able to track. They literally will slide up from their sleeve and get a heads-up display.
Snare set.
Whenever anything is moving around, they're going to show up as a little blip. And that allows you to know where your threats are coming from, deploy all your tools, and give the information you need to effectively defend your area.
The seasonal reset allows us to change the journey of the things that you're going to care about.
Just because you experienced it in Season 1 doesn't mean it's going to play out the same way in Season 2. We are taking a holistic look at every mod in the game, every mag, every optic, every chip, and seeing where they sit, what people like about them, which ones people don't like.
We're flipping implants on their head. Now an implant is going to be perk first, stats second. You look at the name of the implant, and that's what the perk is. That's what it does.
We're also going in and changing the rarity and the drop rate of some of these things. So a weapon you maybe got real used to seeing in Season 1, you might find a little less often in Season 2, and you're going to have to form a relationship with a new old reliable. There are going to be 2 new weapons being added to the sandbox. First one is the KKV. It's a small arms SMG with an integrated suppressor, and it is excellent at just mowing down anything immediately right in front of you. Shotgun rushers, watch out. The second gun is the D54 battle pistol. It comes with an integrated red dot optic. We really see this as an excellent 1v1 strafe dueling weapon. You know, things are going crazy. Put that sniper back on your back and just pop out the D54 battle pistol and you are just ready to go.
Okay guys, bit of a quicker section there, but we have got the full reveal for the new runner shell, which is Sentinel. He looks absolutely great. His kit looks amazing. Obviously this character is going to be a lot more defensive and rally than the other ones. He does have that trophy system, which is what we really wanted to get rid of the nade spam and cryo that we've been dealing with. They did talk about Sentinel having buffs to his resistances when he does receive explosive damage. Now I'm not sure if that means is he resistant to explosive damage or does he just trade the health out for the resistant buffs. Every weapon skill is going to be buffed when he is surrounded by enemies. So that's reload speed and ready speed. This is amazing. This is going to be a lot of clutch potential from Sentinels that are last alive. If your teammates are dead and you're last alive with maybe that new SMG, you got the reload speed, you know, you got the ready speed buff, you are going to be able to pull off these 3v1s if you're good enough. So this is really cool to see in a runner shell, and that alone would attract me to play in this guy. I do realize when the season comes out everybody's going to be trying to run Sentinel because it's the new runner, whatever, but this would be something I'd be interested in, especially with the clutch potential involved. Part of his kit then is that slow mine that we've seen. If enemies trip it, they are going to be slowed by that like bubble stuff that gets on you. Now I can see this being extremely frustrating in some scenarios, and I'm hoping the balance it means this doesn't last too long if you unfortunately do get hit by this mine. As you can also see, part of Sentinel's kit from the video, there is this halo like radar that you have in the top left that shows you any enemies that are in your immediate proximity. For me personally, this kind of sucks. You know, there is enough wall hacks, there is enough, you know, awareness abilities when it comes to these runners, especially recon. I don't think we need any more wall hacks or any more proximity stuff. It is going to be there, it is added, you know, they have confirmed it. For me personally, I'm not a big fan of any more of this stuff, but again, it's part of the shell, it is what it is, so we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out and how strong that really is. As mentioned in the video then, there are going to be some balancing and changes. They only really did specify mods, but I can't imagine different weapons will be tweaked and tuned, and we'll see all of it in the patch notes. It only makes sense for them to do it in a new season, especially when meta is so damn clear from season 1. I mean, there's nothing more viable than the bully SMG. Even the ARs are outpaced by the bully at any range, so I can't imagine they are going to start making some balancing changes. But like I said, they did specify mods and weapons being more common and other weapons being more uncommon with the drop rate, so they are going to make some of these less popular weapons more meta. They are going to force people to use them more, and with the start of the wipe, you are going to be using anything you get your hands on, so this is going to be fun to try out different stuff. Okay guys, getting into the fun stuff now, we have 2 new weapons being added. That's the KKV SMG and the B54 battle pistol. The KKV SMG, I will just say this now guys, from one clip in the background, this thing is going to be meta. I promise you this is close range meta for season 2. It absolutely shreds. It looks like it's kind of like a P90 with, you know, high fire rate, close engagements. The only thing I will feel like the downside will be to this weapon will be the magazine size. If you can get the magazine size a lot higher than base, I imagine this thing's going to be an absolute monster. I can't wait to get my hands on this SMG, but I promise you this is going to be what everyone will use in these close range engagements. We've seen the nerf with the DB. We're probably going to see a nerf with the Mizzy, I do believe I heard. So on top of all that, with this KKV being introduced, everyone's going to be using this in close encounters. The only way to alleviate that would be to make the drop rate, you know, kind of like the Mizzy is now. Make it hard to get your hands on these SMGs. But when it comes to a new season and new weapons being added, the developers want people to get their hands on them as early as possible. So more than likely everybody will have this at the start of wipe, and it will be a fun experience to say the least. Next up then for season 2 weapons is the B54 battle pistol. This is a 3-round burst pistol. It looks like it has low recoil, highly customizable, and this is going to be an extremely viable secondary weapon. When it comes to marathon and picking loadouts after the DB nerf, if I have no Mizrayas, it's very hard for me to pick a secondary. Even if I do, it usually is just a bully. With the introduction to this battle pistol then, if I am in that situation again, I can't imagine I will be picking one of these up just to have as that backup weapon if I run out of ammo or some situation arises. So that's where I see the most use for this pistol for. It's definitely not looking as powerful as that KKV, but as a secondary it looks extremely viable, and I'm looking forward to trying it out.
In Season 2, everyone gets this fresh start, and they have a chance to go back through that journey from zero to hero.
It allows us as designers to look at what we did and say, hey, how could we do this better?
We've taken a look at a lot of our contracts, like in a single run, heavy traversal. I know everyone loves going from bio to field maintenance. How do we still keep the magic, but just remove some of those frustrations where it feels like you're throwing yourself against the wall? We're looking at things like material costs and how you're earning faction reputation, how you're earning it as a solo, how you're earning it as a crew. One of our big goals is that most Marathon players can actually max out their faction upgrades and get to VIP ranks.
You're our ticket, our dead of night infiltrator.
What we're really ultimately looking to do is make it so we're alleviating all of those challenges that might be blocking you from continuing to grow inside of the game.
In Season 1, everything was tied to faction upgrades. If you want extra melee damage, you were having to rank up Arachne. With the Cradle, you get a single screen with all the runner shell stats, and you're able to pick how you're distributing points. Cradle XP comes from smashing down gear that you don't care about. You can batch, select a whole bunch of stuff, turn it into Cradle XP, and now you've got more stats for your runners.
If you want to be the fastest runner on Tau Ceti, you can just go all in on agility right from the start.
And we're not gonna penalize you for wanting to reset. If you wanna pull all your stats out of one and put it into something else, you can.
That system is going to give players, I think, a lot more freedom to pick and choose how and what they want to upgrade than the faction upgrade system offered previously.
As we're continuing to build seasons in the future, not just Season 2, but Season 3 and Season 4, we're going to keep hammering at how do we make it so everyone really appreciates that survival journey better.
What can we improve? How can we shift this experience to just be cooler, just be more fun?
I want to be able to have our game be this launching point into a whole bunch of different experiences and stories that players can have.
That's sort of where it's leading to, is sort of how do we discover new frontiers for that gameplay.
Okay, boys, that was the final section of the reveal trailer and dev announcement that they, provided for us. To start things off then, that individuality and build crafting has been taken to a new level. We're able to fine-tune our runners to different stats, different abilities, have us be able to play completely different than we did in Season 1 with these new skill tree advantages from the Cradle, and also the different, changes and adjustments that they're making to implants and such. From what I could gather in the video then, they are going to be reworking contracts, making them a little bit more easier to complete, a little less time consuming. That's what I could really get from what they were talking about there. Also, we heard that they're making changes to how we gather reputation or earn reputation. This wasn't really something I noticed or looked at. Maybe some of you guys have opinions on that, but again, they're reworking it, they're looking at it, so we'll just have to wait and see how different it really is. Okay guys, then the biggest change in my opinion for Season 2, and the one I'm most excited for, is the Cradle. This is a new skill tree system that we can use to take our characters in a direction that maybe we haven't been able to do before, with the stats and the different, categories. On screen then you can see strength, recharge, dexterity, endurance, support, and resistance. What you can do then is take your Cradle XP that you earn or that you trade in for some gear that you find, and then put them into these skill points to push your character's stats permanently in a direction that you see fit. Hopefully this works alongside the implants that do affect your statistics. It will be interesting to see like a full revive speed build, or maybe like a full stealth build, a full speed build. All this different stuff that we can do and work with in Marathon Season 2 is really exciting for me. I'm definitely going to see what I can change my character into and how that's going to affect in Raid. I really do like the system where you can trade in weapons and gear for that Cradle XP. When you're at the start of wipe and you get some random stuff that you don't want, instead of getting pennies for it, you are able to put it into something useful. That's a feature that really did catch my eye, and it's, really good to see. Another thing with the Cradle that is, maybe a positive, maybe a negative, I'm not quite sure yet, but is the penalty-free respec. You're able to change your Cradle points anytime you want, as long as you have them to any different category. When you change runner, maybe you go into a certain raid or cryo, you want to do boss, then you can respec your Cradle in order to be in a position where you can do what you need to do in a more efficient manner. Now, I'm not sure if penalty free is the way to go about this. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out towards the end of Season 2. But in my personal opinion, it just isn't sitting right with me just yet. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. But that's going to be it for the video. But at the very end there, you can see that the devs here for Marathon are working very hard. They are pushing themselves to get this content out. They are listening to player feedback. They are in the office and they're doing the hard work. So it is really good to see that from the Marathon and the Bungie guys. One thing I will note then, for me personally, when it comes to Season 1, as we're going into Season 2 and we're looking into this, late term goals, I do want to see ranked addressed, and I want to see the cheater situation addressed. Now, I'm not one to cry about cheaters constantly talking about them and bringing them up, but listen, I'm not stupid. They are in Marathon, and they are especially in the ranked modes. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen them quite frequently, and it is sad to see. Maybe Bungie can look at the Steam family system where cheaters can make a new account without buying a new copy of the game. I think that's the biggest problem here. But on top of that, I do know they're making bans. I have got messages myself from people they've banned, so I know they're on top of it and they are looking at it. Ranked and the cheater situation is the two long-term goals I hope Bungie address and fix. But with the new season, with the new changes of content they've added, I am predicting we're going to see a lot more players coming back for Season 2. I'm just hoping the game's good enough to make these guys stay, because with the community, that we are quite small, especially towards the end of this season with the daily player count. So I'm hoping Season 2 does change all that. Listen guys, though, I do hope you did enjoy the video, and thank you if you did make it all the way to the end. I thank you especially. This is going to be a great season coming up, and it's only a few days away, and you can best believe I'm going to be pumping out a lot of content on the channel and what early game looks like over here on Marathon. But like I said guys, thanks very much for watching. As always, I will see you in the next one. Peace.